Welcome back to That Dad Guy. It is July 3rd, 2025, and here in Moncton, it's 38 degrees Celsius with the humidity. We're in the middle of a heat wave. This is day 3 of having these hot temperatures, which means it's beautiful to be inside the house, in an air-conditioned house, talking about stamps. So what I want to do today is continue looking at my father's stamp collection, specifically this album we've been going through, which is labeled The Americas, Everything But Canada and the US. You can see I've added to my father's collection. I even have another album here. We will be going through and looking at the stamps that he has collected in his lifetime and the ones that I have added to it. And we have been going alphabetically through this book. We are going to continue with that currently, but I did make some changes to the format. In the past, we talked a lot about the history, and some of the history is very similar when you talk about colonization, whether it was the English, the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, whoever happened to come here, the Dutch. They came in, they took over an area, they made it a bit of their own, they stole all the wealth they could, they brought in slaves, there was a revolution, there was political changes flipping back and forth. That is the common theme through a lot of countries, but I want to focus on the positives of these countries too. So we will talk on the history, that's fine. It's an important part of knowing where we came from or where they came from and how you got to where you are today. So we will talk on that, but we will talk on some of the positives too that these countries have produced. So make sure you like, you subscribe, you leave positive comments, you share with other people, you put the notification bell on so you don't miss out on anything. And if I said that already, it's worth saying again. So let's get going. We're going to start by talking about Mexico, or the United Mexican States. That's the country is next on the list. Its capital is Mexico City, and with a population of 21.6 million people, it makes it the most populous city in North America. It's the 5th most populous city in the world. The main language in Mexico is Spanish, but there are 68 other indigenous languages as well within that country. Its current president is Claudia Sheinbaum. She is the 66th president. Mexico is the 13th largest country in the world by land area, and with 130 million people, it makes it the country with the largest number of Spanish speakers. Spain, for example, has 48 million people. So more people in Mexico speak Spanish than in Spain. That is crazy to think about. In 1810, they started their War of Independence from Spain. In 1821, they declared independence. And in 1836, they were officially recognized by the world. The United States was the first one to recognize them because they had this thing called the Monroe Doctrine. And they really didn't want other people influencing. So when Mexico said that they were independent, the U.S. was saying, yep, we're okay with that because we don't want Europe coming over here and meddling in our part of the world anymore. Now, that's the early stages or the late stages of Mexican government and independence. But they had a civilization going back to 8000 BC. They were first settled by the Mesoamerican people, and it's one of the 6 cradles of civilization, which means that there was a population that started there and developed religions and agricultural techniques and developed, and they have pyramids there and giant cities. When Spain arrived in 1521, the Aztec capital was destroyed but rebuilt as Mexico City. At the time, that Aztec capital was the largest city in the Americas. It's pretty impressive to think of what they had already accomplished and how far along they were compared to some of these other countries that we currently think of. As a Canadian, we think of ourselves as quite a bright and smart population that is advanced. But Mexico was doing it well before our Aboriginal people were doing things, and they had success, and they had wealth. Now, not a wealth that they were really appreciative. The Europeans came in and they saw the silver and gold and copper and the agricultural, and they wanted to take it all out. For them, it was just a way of life, and the minerals really didn't mean very much. But they used it in the designs of their buildings and that aspects of their royalty, their tribe leaders all used it to garnish things, but it didn't have that same appeal or monetary value that the Europeans saw in it. So that is the fun history, or the the history of Mexico that I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about all the different switches in governments and overthrows or what have you. We know that Mexico is an amazing country. People flock there all the time, tourists, to see the beautiful scenery, to eat the wonderful cuisine. But what are some fun facts about Mexico? All right, let's look at it. It has the second largest coral reef in the world, and it shares that with a number of other countries along the way, because I believe when I talked about Belize, I also said it had the second largest, because it's the same coral reef. So that's interesting to know. Mexico City has the second most museums in the world. If you're a museum goer and you happen to go to Mexico, there are a lot of them in Mexico City. So you could spend a lot of time going in and out of museums and learning fascinating history. Mexico also has 35 UNESCO heritage sites. That's a lot of history that is being protected, which is wonderful. How about the National Autonomous University of Mexico, or UNAM? It was founded in 1551. It's the largest university in Latin America and one of the best in the world. Its education is by far superior than many others, and many others that are within North America that we hold in such high esteem. Let's look at the Mexican flag real quick. It has a green bar, a vertical bar, represents hope. The white bar represents unity, and the red bar represents the blood of their fallen national heroes. But inside that white, there is an image that is very powerful. It's of an eagle clutching a snake perched on a cactus. And the myth behind that is that the early people were walking, and when they found this image, this eagle, they said that this was their god reincarnated, and this is where they were supposed to build their city and start their life. And that is the site of where Mexico City now resounds. They have these two amazing volcanoes. I'll put them here. They see them as a princess and a warrior deity that will be standing together, protecting the people. That was one of the things that the early people believed. So there is all this history in the nature that's around them. The Cholula Pyramid is the largest pyramid by volume known to exist in the world. When I think of the pyramids, I think of Egypt. But I shouldn't be thinking of Egypt solely, because the Aztec, the Mayan ruins that are there, the pyramids that are left, Chichen Itza, there are amazing pyramids there. If you want to go see early culture, Mexico should be on your list of places to go. Okay, now we know some fun facts. We've got some things that we should go see when they're there. What is Mexico known for that maybe you didn't know that you should know, that you should thank them for? Number one on my list, number one in probably a lot of people's lists, is chocolate. The Mayan and Aztec people invented chocolate. When the Europeans got here and they discovered chocolate, they brought it back to Europe and did their own thing with it. But thank you to the Mexican people for inventing chocolate. How about guacamole? Nowadays, we go to the restaurants, we get our taco chips, our salsa. It wouldn't be the same without guacamole, would it? They were the ones that decided, well, let's smash up the avocados and add in some onions and do all these other things and puree it and turn it into this wonderful guacamole dip. So that came from there. Mariachi music. Are you familiar with the hats and the big guitars and the wonderful sounds that come from those famous artists, those talented people? Mariachi music comes from Mexico. Okay, here's one I didn't know. Did you know it? Color television was invented in Mexico in 1940 by an engineer, Guillermo Gonzalez Camarena, I believe. So in the 1940s, color television was invented in Mexico. I think we still had a black and white television in our house until the late 1970s. Yes, color televisions were around. We just didn't have one in our house until probably the early 1980s. So in 1940s, color television was invented there. Okay, how about this one? For those of you who are interested in safe sex, the pill, the contraceptive pill, was invented in Mexico in 1951. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are happy about that. But also, if you're not just thinking from a pleasure standpoint, from a global protection of the world's population and overpopulation in some countries, that has certainly made a huge difference in impacting in the world. How about the neonatal bubble, the Odon device, invented by Jorge Odon? He was instrumental in helping infants survive if they came early, if they came at so also another wonderful Mexican invention. How about color photography? Also in the 1940s by Gabriel Vargas. He invented color photography. I can still remember from my childhood and going through some of these pictures that were left, I talked about in a box back here that are black and white. I remember when color pictures became a thing, and my siblings' pictures maybe were all in black and white, and when I came along, mine were all in color. Well, that's thank you to color photography. It was in the 1940s. So once again, it took a long time for it to go around the world, but the invention was done early. This one also, maybe not as grandiose or as important as chocolate to me, but on a global scale, super important. The earthquake early warning system by Cesar Sapinas. He invented it. It saves countless lives. Those fractions of seconds or minutes or however much time that they have to notify people that an earthquake is coming to get to a proper shelter has saved many, many people throughout the years. And once again, a Mexican inventor came up, had that creative knowledge, and we now have that protection. I still want to thank them for chocolate, though. I'm loving chocolate. All right, the last thing before we get to the stamps that I want to talk about Mexico, if you Google what is Mexican culture known for, the thing that popped up for me, I'm going to read it verbatim because I think it is really, really good. Respect for elders, loyalty, hospitality, generosity, solidarity, and honor. All wonderful virtues and traits to have. It says Mexicans are also known for their sense of humor, creativity, and joyfulness. And that's reflective in their art, their music, their literature, and their festivals. The one thing I would add on to all that is their cuisine, because so good, wonderful food that comes from that country and has spread. Now, many of those countries would also say it's been influenced by this or that or that. I think that is the case in any country, that cuisine gets modified throughout times, but that's a wonderful thing too, that we can adapt, we can see what we like and say, you know, this might be a little bit better if we just did this to it or did that to it. And then it's developed into something new. It's created something new. So wonderful thing. That is how I want to do these videos now. I want them to be exciting in the fact that we're going to learn a little history, but we're also going to learn those things that have impacted the rest of the world as a result of that country being there. And there's some things I learned today. Hopefully you did too. So let's show you a few stamps. Here you're going to see what was in my father's collection for Mexico. You can see at the top, Leeward Islands. We've already talked about that. They just have to be at the top of the page. So we'll go through the stamps that he has in here. Once again, these ones aren't put in by Scott number. He doesn't have them listed underneath. So I'm not sure when he got them, why he put them in the way that he did. Maybe he matched some of them with the sets. Maybe some of them were numerical, or maybe he has them in a general order. I really like this one here, the connection of the two. representation of old British stamps in there too. The Olympics. Mexico was a host country for the Olympics. And the ones that I have in my Vario pages, you're going to see some duplicates with what you just saw from my father's. And they also are not in Scott order. I just put them in the album to get them organized by country. I'm at the point now where I need some more Vario pages. I got a nice lot of stamps from Wolfie, and I've used up all the Vario pages that I have. I'm going to need to get some more. So I might have to wait till the end of the summer when my stamp show's back in full force again. And that's it for my Mexican collection so far. What do you think? Do you like the stamps that Mexico has produced so far? You can see there's not a lot of modern Mexican stamps in the collection as of yet. Maybe one day I'll be able to find a source that will get me some more modern ones that I can show off as well. But that was the time frame that my father was collecting, and so you kind of see that early, 1970s, early 1980s. That's kind of the cutoff of when he has stamps in his collection, and you'll see that throughout the other countries that we focus on over time. I don't know if next week I will continue in alphabetical order or not, or whether it will be a random. Well, you'll have to wait and see. We're going to try to make it as interesting as possible, but as fun for me too. I like the randomness rather than people predicting ahead of time what they're going to see and telling me what they're going to see. So we might have to look at changing up the format. The only positive about doing it in alphabetical order, when the stamp shows are on, I can bring in a list and I can look for certain countries that I know that I will be talking about during the period between my stamp shows. So that is something I have to take into consideration. I'll either show less stamps by being random, or if I remain organized, then we have more to show you. Let me know what you think. Random or organized? That's it for today, you guys. Have a magical week. What, Polo? You say like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends?
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
Bye. You can see I've organized, these are all that I have left to put away. Organize them by country. These are all the stamps that Wolfie had sent me. I've been putting them in binders. The ones that still have Vario pages that have space available, those stamps will go in. Otherwise, they'll have to go in envelope for now until I can get a new source of Vario pages. But I've made good progress. That's all I've got left to put away. All of those countries are already done. So I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made so far.